You're a nobody with no job or education. We don't need you in this house. As soon as my mother-in-law Rosalind said that, she splashed boiling water on me. Ouch! What the heck are you doing? Caught off guard by Rosaline's sudden action, I couldn't help but scream. Who does that? Splashing boiling water is insane. Luckily, I wasn't burned, but it could have been a disaster. See? That's what I'm saying. We don't need someone unemployed and uneducated like you. Ugh. She splashed boiling water on me for that reason? For the record, it's not me who's unemployed, it's my husband. My anger towards Rosalind started to boil. If she's going that far, I'll give her what she wants. If that's how you feel, Rosalind, then fine. I'll leave this house. Finally decided to leave, huh? That makes things easier. Far from showing remorse, Rosalind seemed pleased that I was leaving. I couldn't stand to be here another second. I quickly packed my bags and returned to my parents' home that same day. Rosalind doesn't know that my husband is the one who's unemployed. I've been covering all the living expenses. Since quitting my job, I've been making about $30,000 a month from stocks. I won't have any trouble living on my own. If they can't pay their bills, that's not my problem. She'll regret kicking me out. 2 years ago, I married my husband, George. We both graduated from the same university and have known each other since then. Nita, where are you planning to work after graduation? Well, I haven't decided yet, but I'm hoping to get into a brokerage firm. We both majored in economics and vaguely hoped to work in finance. After graduation, we both managed to get jobs at different brokerage firms. As investment bankers, we were both busy and had little time to see each other. Yet our relationship remained strong, and 3 years after starting our jobs, my husband proposed. I promise to make you happy. Will you marry me? When I heard those words, I knew we could make it work. Living with the person I love couldn't be any better. Yes, I'd be honored. And so, we got married. I thought we'd live happily ever after. But then my husband said something unexpected. Could you quit your job and live with my mom at our family home? Why quit? We're newlyweds. Shouldn't we live alone? I'm worried about leaving my mom alone. I promise it won't be a burden on you. My father-in-law passed away from a heart attack when my husband was in middle school. He has no siblings, so it's just been him and Rosalind since then. I understand his concern for his mother. If you're that worried, okay, we'll live together. When we visited Rosalind to announce our marriage, she seemed decent enough, and I thought we could make it work since my husband would be there. I agreed to my husband's request, and we moved into his family home. 2 weeks later, we moved in and were welcomed by Rosalind. She looked genuinely happy that we'd be living together. We're looking forward to being part of the family. But the moment I greeted her, Rosalind's expression changed. Rosalind looked at me with cold eyes, her face filled with discontent. I didn't really need you here, you know. Did I hear that right? Rosalind mumbled something under her breath. I couldn't catch it clearly, so I just laughed it off. At that moment, I started to feel uneasy about living with Rosalind, but otherwise, the day passed without incident. The next morning, "Wake up! Make breakfast now!" I was jolted awake by Rosalind's shouting. What's going on this early in the morning? I checked the clock by my bed. It was only 4 a.m., and it was still dark outside. Why are you up so early? Just because you don't have a job doesn't mean you can laze around all day. Rosalind yelled at me, still half asleep. This is way too early, even if I don't have a job. I thought so, but didn't argue. Instead, I started making breakfast as she demanded. Throughout the cooking, Rosalind kept berating me. Hurry up! Why does it take you so long? You're so slow. About 30 minutes later, breakfast was finally ready. Sorry for the wait. About time. Can't you make it any faster? Rosalind was still complaining. No matter how fast you want it, it's physically impossible to do it quicker. I almost snapped back, but held my tongue. What's with this soup? It's too salty. Really? I don't think so. What? Are you saying there's something wrong with my taste buds? You want me to die from all this salt? That's not what I'm thinking at all. What is Rosalind talking about? Why is she being so harsh towards me? Feeling puzzled, I decided to ask Rosalind directly. Why are you so hard on me, Rosalind? What are you talking about? I'm not being hard on you. What, you want to make me the villain? No, that's not what I mean. I couldn't argue any further, feeling defeated by Rosalind's pressure. Once you're done cleaning up, start cleaning the house. After that, there's laundry. You won't have time to relax, you know. From that day on, Rosalind continued to make snide remarks, and I was mentally and physically drained. If I did the laundry, she'd say, "You left wrinkles." If I cleaned, she'd say, "You missed a spot." About a month after moving in with Rosalind, I felt like I was going to break down. I talked to my husband. "Rosalind keeps making snide comments every day, and is really hard. Can you please ask her to stop?" But my husband didn't react. I was momentarily irritated, but then I noticed something was off about him. His face was pale, and he seemed like he wanted to say something. "Hey, what's wrong? Did something happen?" When I asked, he slowly began to speak. "Actually, I've been laid off." "What? What are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke?" I was stunned and couldn't comprehend what my husband was saying. "The company is downsizing. I'm part of the restructuring." According to him, the company's profits had plummeted due to the economic downturn, leading to large-scale restructuring. "So, starting tomorrow, you're unemployed?" "I can work for another month, but after that..." My husband answered weakly. Fortunately, since quitting my job, I've been trading stocks, using the knowledge I gained while working at the brokerage firm. Struggling at first, we're now making around $30,000 a month, so we're not hurting for money. While comforting my downcast husband, I'd completely forgotten about the harassment I was getting from Rosalind. From the next day on, I endured Rosalind's bullying with all my might. Since my husband lost his job, giving up wasn't an option. I had to be the one to support him. That's what I thought. And a month later, just as he'd been warned, my husband was fired and became jobless. "I'm really sorry. I'll find a job right away." Starting the day after he was fired, my husband began visiting the Employment Service Center, but gradually he just started lounging around the house all day. "Hey, shouldn't you start looking for a job?" "I am, but there's just nothing good out there." He kept making excuses and didn't even try to find new work. I ended up covering our monthly expenses. The harassment from Rosalind escalated day by day. I had been strong when my husband first lost his job, but now I couldn't even muster the energy. I was living each day in a state of apathy. Then one day, my husband said he had to go out early in the morning, which was unusual. Maybe he's finally motivated to find a job. After seeing him off, I started cleaning as usual. "Make sure you clean properly, okay?" Rosalind was lounging on the living room sofa, sipping her tea elegantly. Must be nice. I was so annoyed looking at Rosalind that I ignored her. Then in the next moment, "Why are you ignoring me? You're my son's wife!" Rosalind suddenly lost her temper, stood up from the sofa, and confronted me. What's she so mad about? I continued to ignore Rosalind and kept cleaning. "How long will you ignore me? If you're not working, get out of this house!" Rosalind said this and threw boiling water at me. It must have been the hot water she prepared for her tea. "It's hot! What are you doing?" Caught off guard, I couldn't help but shout. Fortunately, the water wasn't boiling, so I avoided getting burned. "Finally, you respond! That's what I've been telling you! If you're not working, leave this house!" I had reached my limit with Rosalind, who was smirking as she spoke. "It's my husband who's not working. If that's how it's going to be, fine. Alright, I'll leave." "Good, make it quick." I didn't want to spend another second in this house. I packed my bags and decided to leave my in-laws' house that day. I couldn't care less what happens to Rosalind from now on. She'll regret kicking me out. I went straight back to my parents' house. They were surprised by my sudden return, but warmly welcomed me after I explained the situation. I waited for a call from my husband, but none came, not even a message. He doesn't care about me anymore. I felt a bit lonely, but I resolved not to contact him until he reached out. A month has passed since I returned to my parents' house, and I still haven't heard from my husband. My feelings for him have faded, and I'm considering contacting him to initiate a divorce. One day, the video doorbell at my parents' house rang early in the morning. When I checked the monitor, my husband and Rosalind were standing there. What could they want now? "Hello? What brings you here?" "We're forgiving you, so come back home, now!" Rosalind was still yelling, even through the monitor. Forgiving? For what? What have I ever done to Rosalind? "I'm sorry, but what exactly are you forgiving? I've done nothing that requires Rosalind's forgiveness." I said this to Rosalind and turned off the monitor. I was about to lose it with Rosalind, who had come uninvited and was talking down to me. but instead of leaving, they started pounding on the front door. "What are you doing cutting me off? Come back home now!" Thinking it would be a nuisance to the neighbors if this continued, I opened the door and invited Rosalind and my husband inside. After seating them on the living room sofa, I asked what they were here for. "So, what's the reason for this sudden visit?" "I told you! Come back home!" This made no sense. They were the ones who told me to leave in the first place. "I'm sorry, but I left because Rosalind told me to. Why would I want to come back now?" I calmly retorted to Rosalind. "Besides, my husband doesn't seem to care that I left, so I have no intention of going back." "Don't be so childish. We're forgiving you, aren't we?" Forgiving. What have I done to Rosalind? I keep telling you, there's nothing to forgive. I'm saying you can stay in my house, even if you're unemployed. What? I'm not the one unemployed here. It's my husband. And if I go back, I'll just be bossed around every day. True, I'm not working. But what about George? Huh? George has nothing to do with this. No, he does. Don't you know, Rosalind? George is unemployed. Rosalind looked at me as if she didn't understand what I was saying. Apparently, my husband hadn't told her he'd been fired. Or rather, it's strange that Rosalind hadn't noticed. Wait, George, is this true? Rosalind asked my husband, who remained silent and didn't say anything. Frustrated, Rosalind couldn't hide her irritation. Speak up! How will we know if you don't say anything? Okay, I'll talk. I was actually fired from my job. Perhaps succumbing to Rosalind's pressure, my husband began to tell her he'd been fired. At first, Rosalind was shocked to hear he'd quit his job, but then she started showing signs of anger towards him as well. Why did you keep this a secret? How are we supposed to live now? Well, I haven't found a job yet, but Anita has some income, so we'll manage, right? He's not even seriously looking for a job, and now he's relying on my income. What a loser. I was completely done after hearing my husband's words. I was foolish to think, even for a moment, that I should support this guy. So, you came here because you don't want to work and you're counting on me, right? No, that's not it. That's a hit. He's clearly flustered. So why did you come now? From the day I went back to my parents' house until today, you haven't even sent a message, let alone called. I've been busy looking for a job. I didn't have time to contact you. What a terrible excuse. Even if he had been job hunting all day, he could have at least sent a message. I was too stunned to say anything. Well, George said so just come back home. Rosalind interrupted our conversation. Come back home? Who does she think she is? After all the terrible things she's done to me? Come back? You must be joking. After all the awful things you've done to me? Why would I? You're exaggerating. I was just thinking of your best interest. My best interest? Is throwing boiling water at me in my best interest? I couldn't hold back anymore and unleashed all my grievances on Rosalind. My husband, unaware that I had been scalded with boiling water, looked puzzled. Wait, Mom threw boiling water at Anita? Is this true? Yes, it's true. She suddenly threw it while I was cleaning. I was lucky not to get burned, but I feel like reporting her to the police right now. What the hell, Mom? Why would you do that? It's Anita's fault for ignoring what I say. My statement triggered a heated argument between my husband and Rosalind. What a noisy pair, barging into someone else's home. It's time for them to leave. If you want to argue, do it at home. If you're done here, please leave. As soon as I made it clear they should leave, their attitudes changed dramatically. Rosalind and my husband, who had been so aggressive, started begging me with almost tearful eyes. Please, come back. We promise never to mistreat you again. Anita, I'm begging you. I'll definitely find a job. I guess they're really after my income. My husband probably thinks he can get by without working if he keeps me around. And Rosalind probably thinks she can relieve her daily stress by making my life miserable while also getting housework done. So you thought I'd say, yes, I understand? I'm never coming back. You both probably see me as just a convenient woman. That's not true! I promise I won't make life hard for you. My husband says this, but what should I believe now? He'll probably just laze around and not look for a job if I go back. Why hasn't he found a job yet? It's obvious he doesn't want to work. It seems I've hit the nail on the head. My husband had nothing more to say. Rosalind, same goes for you. Who would believe you won't mistreat me again? You'll probably go back to your old ways. Rosalind also fell silent. Their silence probably means they were thinking exactly that. I left the two of them in the living room and headed to my room. When I returned to the living room 5 minutes later, they were still sitting there, silent and looking down. How long do you plan to sit there? Anyway, could you sign this? I handed my husband the divorce papers, already filled out with my name. What is this? My husband was clearly confused, probably never expecting to hear the word divorce. Don't you get it? There are divorce papers. You said you'd find a job soon, but you never did. And you didn't even contact me when I went back to my parents' house. I'm done. Wait, this is too sudden. How self-centered can he be? It's his fault this is happening. My decision to divorce won't change, no matter what you say. Don't you think divorce is too harsh? Rosalind suddenly chimed in. I don't think it's harsh. It's not my fault, I said coldly to Rosalind. After all, she's partly to blame. I calmly thought about this. Fine, I get it. But don't regret this. My husband finally gave in and signed the divorce papers. There's no way I'll regret this. Actually, I feel relieved that the divorce is finalized. Alright, I'll file these divorce papers with the court. I don't need any alimony, so just leave. And so, my husband and I were officially divorced. I wondered if I had gone too far, but if I hadn't done this, Rosalind would continue to exploit me, and my husband would never seriously look for work. After kicking them out of my parents' home, I submitted the divorce papers to the court that same day. 2 weeks later, while relaxing at my parents' home, I received a call on my mobile phone from Rosalind. What could she possibly want? Hello? What is it? Wait a minute! The electricity and gas are both off? What did you do? Rosalind sounded frantic, but I hadn't done anything. I had just stopped paying for all the household expenses, which I had been covering until now. What do you mean? I haven't done anything. That can't be true. Everything was fine until now. Did you pay your bills? What? Rosalind was stunned. Does she not even understand that? You pay money for the services you use. Even a child understands that. What do you mean, what? Electricity and gas aren't free, you know? You probably got cut off for not paying your bills. Wait, that's a problem. Anita, could you cover it for us, just for this month? How much more can she underestimate people? Why should I pay when we're not even living together? Rosalind, have you lost your mind? George and I are no longer married, and we're not living together. Why should I pay for you? Well, we don't have any money. Then ask George. He promised to find a job and work, remember? But he hasn't found one yet. Can't you help us out as his ex-wife? I wish she'd stop making a fool out of people. It's pathetic that she's asking for help even from her ex-daughter-in-law. Understood. As I said that, Rosalind's tone clearly brightened. I'm glad you understand. So, you'll take care of the payment? I understand you very well, Rosalind. I won't have anything more to do with you guys. I don't want to be involved with people who conveniently used me, even after divorce. Goodbye. What are you saying? Rosalind seemed like she still had something to say, but I hung up the phone. Of course, I also made sure to block her number, so she couldn't call back. I had been mistreated by Rosalind for so long, and I never thought my husband would turn out to be such a deadbeat. After cutting ties, I muttered, I hope they suffer, and moved on. A month passed. My ex-husband and Rosalind didn't bother me, and I was living peacefully. One day, while looking at stock charts, a message notification sounded on my mobile phone. I rarely get messages, so I thought it was probably spam. But when I opened it, it was from my ex-husband. I'm really sorry for everything. I've started working as a temporary worker in a factory, and finally making some money. I know it's strange to ask now, but would you consider coming back? Life has been tough since you left. Mom has been hard on me. That was the gist of the message from my ex-husband. Come back? What is he talking about? I'm glad he's working, but there's no way I'm getting back together with him. It seems Rosalind hasn't changed. She's now targeting her own son. After all, Rosalind hasn't changed at all, and blocked my ex-husband without replying. 6 months after the divorce, I started dating a man introduced to me by a friend. He's 5 years younger than me, but very mature, and treats me well. Neither of us is thinking about marriage yet, but someday we might. For now, I just want to cherish the happy times with him.